Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters. Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of the Other 99%. I am so pumped to have our guest with us today. I just want to introduce you to, if you haven't already met her online, Miss Rachel Perry. And Rachel, I'm so excited that you're here and just wanted you to share a little bit about who you are and all that jazz with our guests or our listeners, I should say.
Well, girl, I am so happy that you invited me to be a part of this because you might not know this, but like you were one of my first students after after the tag team sort of ended. And so you were in my membership, I believe, right? Weren't
Yeah,
you in my
yeah.
membership? And I just remember you were just one of my people from the very beginning. So when I saw that you were doing this podcast, I was like a proud mama. I was so excited and so proud of you for like stepping into your power and just who you are. And as you have so much to bring to this audience. So for everyone listening, just know like Lisa is it. And I'm so happy to be here. And I'm just so excited. So if you don't know who I am Rachel, and I teach direct sellers how to have successful businesses. I'm a business coach. I teach them how to have, consistent 3 to 5K months without relying on parties, which is kind of crazy because if you followed me a while ago, I was part of the tag team and we taught people how to party on Facebook. But
Mhm.
things have changed. Things have changed, and Facebook parties, online parties, they just don't work the way they used to. So that's kind of my passion. That's what I'm all about these days. And I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember joining yours was the first membership that I actually joined. It was
Yes.
at that time where I said, you know what? I can't keep relying on my company to train me everything
Right.
because it's like they have great training, they have great resources, but it wasn't what I was looking for. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're basically how I stepped out of my comfort zone,
Oh,
jumping into these like trainers from
yeah.
like
Like,
other direct sales
yes.
trainers. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and I remember the
Oh,
calls and all that stuff. And I met so many wonderful people
yeah.
through
Yeah.
the membership. So which is awesome because
Yeah.
it allowed me not only to build my knowledge but to build my network. And
Exactly.
I think that's one of the true values of
Oh,
these memberships, right?
that is I'm so glad you said that because I just had like this aha moment. So many of my students, and not even just my students, like direct sellers in general, are like, how do I grow? How do I get new customers? How do I get new people if parties aren't working the way they used to? How am I supposed to do this? And I think one of those things is networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's connecting with people. And sometimes it happens in like when you step out of your comfort zone to join something for you to help you in your business. And in your case, not that all these people became your customers, but you did build a bigger network,
Yeah.
and some people probably did become customers, and that's how it works. That's awesome. I love that you said that.
Well, and not even just the direct seller that I'm networking with, but I build the know, like, and trust factor with them, and then they just start sharing me with their network, and it's like just
Yes.
snowballs from there,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yes.
I owe my like, I mean, I don't have a huge like the US is a huge net or market to get into, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be anywhere near
Yeah.
in the amount of homes in the US that I am in right now with my epicure business if it wasn't for the networking that I have through like communities like yours,
Yeah.
through the modern direct seller and all that,
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
It's like you
Yes.
need to build your network to get out there and to grow your business for sure.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So one thing I know, I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to direct
Been
sales.
in
And
it. I've been in it for a long, long, long time, it feels like.
well,
Yeah.
it's so funny because anytime people say something, it's like, yeah, man, it's been 18 years for me. And it's like, It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's going to be 14 years with Epicure. So it's not like I went from company to company to
No,
company.
I know.
It's like sticking with it for the long term,
Yes,
but it's like the amount of information that we have in our heads is crazy, right?
it's
And
insane.
and I love, your 3 to 5K months without partying. So
Yes.
can you share some insights with the listeners,
Yeah,
some little tips and tricks that you can sort of
absolutely.
suggest to help them get out there?
Yeah. It's what I love to talk about. So absolutely. But it has been 18 years for me. My son turned 18 yesterday. And I was like, okay, first of all, how am I old enough to have an 18-year-old?
I think the
Because he's
same
clearly
thing.
aged. Yeah. I'm like, but what? Like I literally gave birth to him yesterday, I feel like. So that was a whole range of emotions. But I started in direct sales when he was like a month or two old. And kind of for the same reason that so many of us do is so that I could stay home. I was a teacher before and I just didn't want to go back to teaching. I didn't want to leave him. And so I started my direct sales business. And I too was really only with one company for my time in direct sales until we started the tag team. Recently, I joined another one. I kind of wanted to throw my like get back into the direct sales world. I mean, I was in the direct sales world, but I wanted to experience it. Like I wanted to get boots on the ground and really
Hmm.
experience it again. But for anyone who has tried to run two businesses at the same time, it's very difficult. So I had to be like, okay, this is kind of like one of those things where I have dipping my toes back into a company again. But my biggest focus is helping you guys, helping direct sellers find wealth and to
Hmm.
build a sustainable business. So, but yeah, here's where my kind of push. I hear so often parties are the lifeline of our business, or you have to have parties in order to be successful in direct sales. And I disagree with that. I am not anti-party at all. I think parties are awesome. If you're having success with parties, I think it's incredible. And I say to my students all the time, like, just keep going, because they are a really great way of getting in front of more people.
Hmm.
They're a great way to get higher sales, because when people can see, touch, feel, smell, whatever, try on your product, you're going to have better sales. I think there was a shift. I know there was a shift probably around like what, 2013, 2014, when we started doing more Facebook parties and online parties. And that became this great way to do our business where we didn't have to leave our house, and we could do it online. We could do it in our pajamas and we could still make good money. And it was amazing and it was awesome. And then things shifted. Like after COVID, things just started changing. And now online parties just aren't, people aren't seeing the success that they were in the past. And that's just because this is how the world works, right? Like you and I have been in this industry long enough to see that there have been so many changes in the 18 years. Like when I first started, Facebook wasn't even a thing, or it had
Yeah.
just started. Like that wasn't even a thing. And it was all in person. And that's just what we did. Right.
Hmm.
And so things evolve. And I think it's so important for us to evolve as well and recognize that there isn't just one way anymore. We have so many tools at our fingertips that we can utilize in our business. So that being said, if you have been feeling frustrated because parties aren't working the way that they used to, I want to encourage you and tell you there are better ways. Well, there are other ways. I'm not going to say there are better ways, but there are
Hmm.
other ways as well to bring in that money to have those consistent 5K months. The thing is, something to remember is like if you're not going to be doing parties, you still have to work hard, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not just kind of one of those things where you sit back, relax, and like it just happens. You still have to work your business. But what's so important, I think, is to remember that you can build the business that you want. You can build the business that you want, period, end of story. Like I want you to think about, how much do you want to work in your business? What's a dream business for you? Like how would it feel? How would it look? You know, where are you working? How many hours a day are you spending? So many people that I talk to feel like they're glued to their phones. They have
Yeah.
this sense of like urgency all the time because they're afraid that they're not going to make their sales goal this month, or their team isn't going to bring in enough sales and their team is kind of ghosting them and all the things. And there's this sense of like panic and urgency, and it doesn't have to be that way. So when I am looking at what I teach inside my 3 to 5K program, it's about adding tools to your toolbox. So I use this example all the time, but my husband's like, he's a Mr. Fix It. He just loves to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a massive toolbox, which is hilarious because I grew up with a dad who used a wooden stick to like fix the dishwasher because the dishwasher would fall out. And so he came up with this great idea to stick a wooden spoon in the side so that it wouldn't fall out. Okay. Or duct tape. Duct tape was a tool that we used. That was about the extent of my dad's toolbox, was a wooden spoon and duct tape. So my husband having this massive toolbox is it's a whole new world, and it's amazing. However, if he just had wrenches in his toolbox, which are great, like you need wrenches sometimes, right? I don't know enough. So if you are a Fix It, Mrs. Fix It, Mr. Fix It, whatever, I just know I'm not, okay? But if my husband only had wrenches in his toolbox, he'd be able to fix some things, but not everything, right? And so he'd be able to do a really great job if the tool needed a wrench, or if the job needed a wrench, but not so great if it needed a screwdriver and nails and all the things or screws, whatever. It's the same in your business. Like, what are the tools that you're using? If parties and social media, or just social media, are your only tools, you're missing out on a whole heck of a lot of other things that you can be doing. So I'm big on teaching you how to have your business working for you in the background as well, right? So that you can go to the pool, you can go to the beach with your kids, you can, whatever it is, you don't have to be glued to your phone 24/7. So the first thing though, that I'm going to tell you that you need to really dial in is who your like top 1% is. Who is your ideal customer? And that's something I think so many people glaze over. They're like, oh yeah, I mean, really anyone can benefit from my product. Or yeah, my product is for my ideal customer is like a mom. Okay, but we have to get even more specific, because when you are able to get really specific and understand your ideal customer inside and out, you're able to speak to that person as if they are the only person in the world, and they feel so seen and so heard. And that will resonate with them. Whatever content you put out there is really going to resonate so much. So know who your ideal customer is. And I tell my students all the time, sometimes you have to keep revisiting it, right? Like it took me a long time to really understand who my ideal customer was in the coaching business, but also in my direct sales business. And that's because we get to know our ideal customer, right? Like you aren't instantly best friends with someone. I mean, maybe sometimes, but you know what I mean? Like you don't instantly know each other inside and out. You have to get to know each other, and that's how it is for your ideal customer. So something that I teach is to go and do market research. Always be asking questions. Always find out even more information about your ideal customer, because then you're going to be able to serve them on a much deeper level. And that is what it's about. Because once you know what they struggle with, right? Like because you sell Epicure, like I would imagine your ideal customer is someone who maybe doesn't like to or cooks but needs
So
ideas.
for me, yeah, it would be somebody who doesn't really love to cook, but wants to cook healthy meals, right? They don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen because they just don't like it. They have to be like me, right? They just
Right.
don't like it. They may be approaching an age where they have older kids, so it's like meals that have to be able to be
Yeah.
reheated,
Yeah.
So I totally
Yes.
get it, and this is what I try to train people as well, especially my team. You have to speak to somebody specifically, because on social media you need something that's going to stop the scroll. And when you're scrolling, and say my ideal customer is Jane, and Jane sees my post, and she's like, oh my God, Lisa knows exactly what I'm talking about. But then Sam is scrolling the feed too. My post still relates to Sam. Sam can still get information from it. So I'm still selling to Sam, even though she's not my ideal customer. So it definitely, because I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want to niche down because I'm going to start
Right.
pushing people away, but in fact, when you do that, it brings more people in.
Yep. So, so well spoken, Lisa. Like that's exactly it. Like you want to stop that scroll. You want, and think about it. Like I was thinking about this today. One of the tools that I teach is email marketing. And I think email marketing it's the number one, honestly, marketing tool. But a lot of people are like, oh, it's too much, or oh, I hate email or whatever. But when you add such value to your emails, people are going to want to open them. And I
Mhm.
was thinking about that today as I was looking in my inbox. There's one person who sends the emails about something business related that I'm very interested in. I save all of her emails because they're filled with so much valuable content. I've even emailed her to be like, this is such a good email. I'm sure she's like, thanks. But it is so true that when you know who your ideal person is, that I call them your top 1%, when you have that person in mind and you send an email or you post on social media or you share in your VIP group or whatever it is, or you send a text message, it is so powerful because it's going to resonate with people and they're going to open your email. And then when it comes time to sell something, or when you are sharing a special or whatever it is, they're going to want to open it and they're more likely to purchase. So that would probably be the next thing, is like to start really looking into email marketing, because that is a very, very, very powerful tool, just like text marketing is. But I also want you to start thinking about who are you speaking to and what are their struggles. So in Lisa's case, it's going to be someone who just really doesn't like to cook. So if she's sharing something and she's talking about it and she's like, okay, I have the best idea for someone, for if you hate to cook, but you need to because you understand your kids need to eat. Why? I don't know, but side note, every night, every without fail, my husband and I are like, shoot, dinner? What do you it's as if it's a surprise after 18 years of
Yep.
feeding children. And I'm like, every night, I'm like, oh shoot, dinner. Anyway, I think when you start posting or sending an email out or text messaging, you want to start a conversation, right? You want someone to go, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, 100% yes. And if you've nailed down that top 1%, the person you are speaking to, you're going to have more conversations because people are going to respond to you.
Mhm.
And that is where it's at. It's having those conversations, those real, authentic conversations where people are feeling so seen because of what you're sharing. They're automatically going to want to start, having a conversation with you. And I teach a whole thing about how to have conversations and all the things in my program, but really what it is, it's starting a conversation. It's asking them to respond to what you're posting. And when you've nailed the content, when you've nailed what their struggles are and what their problems are, it's going to be so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree because there's no one post that can create
Right.
your success, but it's the conversations that those posts bring into your life, take them to the DMs, to the PMs,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But yeah, just I had somebody ask me, it's like, what do you post on social media to have sales? And I'm like, I talk to people. I'm like, just
Yes.
because I'm sitting behind a computer screen or typing away, it doesn't mean that I'm not having an authentic conversation with someone. It's not all about the spammy sales posts. I hate
Oh
seeing
my gosh,
those
I hate them
spammy
so
sales posts,
much.
but that's
People want to connect.
yeah.
Like people want you. They want to feel seen. I'm in my later 40s, okay? And I didn't know this, but as you age, your skin changes, which is super fun because, there are many other things that change too. And I remember being like, why is my skin like I'd wake up in the morning, I'm like, why is my skin so dry? Like it's like sandpaper.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh, I need to drink more, right? I need to have more water. That's my problem. I'm not healthy enough, whatever. And then I was scrolling Instagram one day, as one does, and I came across this woman who was actually she teaches people over, I guess, 45, like skincare and makeup and stuff. And she was talking about how your skin changes as you age and how it's not because you're not drinking enough water. It's like you're not using the right skincare, blah, blah, blah. But my point is, I felt so seen by this person because she was speaking to a struggle that I didn't even actually really know that I had. Like I would wake up in the morning and be like, why is my skin like sandpaper? But
Mhm.
then I would forget about it for the rest of the day. And it wasn't until I realized, like on her thing, that, oh, I do, that's my problem, right?
Yeah.
And that's an example of knowing the struggles of your ideal customer inside and out. You know them before they do almost.
Yeah.
And so you're able to really nail them. So
Yeah, exactly. Drawing out their problems, their
yeah.
concerns, and you
Hmm.
know, like you said before, making them seen. And that's the one thing. It's like when once people are seen, it's like they'll naturally gravitate to you because they know that
100%.
you're there for them. You're not there
Hmm.
just for the sale. You're there for them. So
Yep. And
I
I think too, along those lines, it's like you being real is so important. And we hear that word, the word authentic, all the time. I feel like it's such a buzzword, but it's true. Like if you can be real and you can share the reality of your life that's not perfect. We don't
Mhm,
need to be perfect. In fact, please don't try to be perfect. Show us the real, right?
mhm.
Because that makes us so much more relatable. How often do you scroll through social and you're thinking, wow, like their life is perfect. They seem to have everything together. Must be nice. Their kids are all smiling in a picture. Mine don't, things, whatever it is, or they got all these awards and my kids got none, right? We think about, that's how we look at social sometimes, or we think, gosh, I wish I looked like her, whatever. But how awesome is it when someone shares the real,
Mhm.
right? Where they go, this is the picture, but this is the reality behind it. Or I'm really struggling right now. I don't know what to cook for dinner. And frankly, why do they have to eat? Right. That's so real and relatable
Yeah,
versus here's my perfect day. Like, here's my perfect house. Here are my perfect children. That's not real,
yeah,
right? That looks pretty, but it's not real. So be real because that is so much more relatable. Don't be
yeah.
afraid of being you.
Yeah. It's so funny because there's some posts out there that I think they're so curated that they're
Oh,
just speaking to other consultants or ambassadors of the company. And
yes,
that's where people see all those likes and all those comments. And it's like you actually look and it's like they're all ambassadors. Like, so you're not actually speaking to customers. Like,
that's
get
a
out
great
there and
point.
speak to customers, right? And
So good.
being real
Yes.
is what's going to bring in those
Yep.
customers. So I love
Yep.
that. Now I know that you were basically the one who introduced me to email marketing and you know
Yes.
the importance of the email marketing.
Yes.
And I know that you have some courses and apps, or not apps,
Yeah.
but freebies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So do you have anything that we could drop in the show notes for our listeners to grab?
I do. I have so much, but I'm just going to give you one thing because
Okay.
that's easier. If you go to rachelaperry.com/no parties, I
Okay.
have my parties optional profit plan for direct sellers. And
Awesome.
in there will be links to other freebies, to my email course and all the things. But yes, that is going to give you kind of how to actually build a 3 to 5K a month business without having to rely on parties.
Awesome. And where can people find you, Rachel, on
Oh,
social?
come and find me at Rachel A. Perry. I love it when you come and chat with me. Please come and chat with me in the DMs. I just love getting to know you guys. And I also have a podcast called the Direct Sellers Podcast.
Yeah. Listen to
Nothing,
it
nothing
every week.
exotic with that name. I'm like, that's just so easy to remember. So definitely come and listen to that too.
Awesome. Yes, I'll make sure I link everything in the show notes. Now, I didn't prep you for this, but I'm sure that you'll do great. But I usually ask our guests to give a quote or a piece of advice
Ooh.
that they think that every direct seller needs to hear.
Okay, a quote. Well, I'm not good at memorizing quotes, so I'm not going to give you a quote. But I think okay, I will say this. I do think every direct seller needs to hear this. You are enough. You are worthy. You are enough. It doesn't matter how much you make. It doesn't matter how many people on your team. It doesn't matter how many parties you have. It doesn't matter if you reach your sales goal this month or not. You are enough. Like, you are worthy for who you are now. So I think in this industry, it's so easy to base our self-worth on our rank, or how many, how much sales we're bringing in, or all of that. And that has nothing to do with your worth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's especially hard when you lose your rank, right? Which happens all the time. Your title, you get a title and then you don't make it for the next month or the next 3 months, and then you lose it. And it's a whole thing that affects us mentally. But I'm going to encourage you to kind of try and detach yourself from that, because you're enough with the title and without a title. You're enough making $200 a month, making $3,000 a month. Like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. That's all external. But recognizing that who you are today, just because you exist, is that you're worthy and you are enough. So just remind yourself of that, because I do think that's something that so many direct sellers struggle with.
I love that. And I think I can't remember the exact quote, but I have a t-shirt that you sent me. I think it says something like know your worth or something like
Yes,
that.
know
Yeah.
your worth. Yes.
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 So I
Know your
love that.
worth. And yeah, yeah. Well, because the membership used to be called Wealth and Worth
Yeah.
Builders,
Yep.
because we were building your wealth, but also recognizing that you are worthy of whatever it is, just life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my big thing.
I love that. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate you being a guest on the podcast. And I know there's going to be a lot of stuff that people are taking away. And just
Good.
wanted to say goodbye to everybody. And thanks so much for joining me. And we will see you guys on the next episode of The Other 99%. Take care.
Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would take a minute to rate and then review the podcast, I would absolutely love it. And if you know someone who really needs to hear this podcast, please feel free to share it with them. More listeners, the better. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast, or you yourself would like to be a guest, be sure to check the link in the show notes or visit lisaduck.com and click Be a Guest. We'll talk to you soon.